name is David Benkof, and this session is on Jews in the American 1960s. It's not about Jewish culture, it's about American culture, but it's about Jews and what they contributed. I live in Jerusalem. I am fascinated by American Jewish culture, and that's really my thing. I presented about 8 to 10 Limmud a year on topics related to Jewish art, and poetry, and fiction, and film, musicals, and jokes. And this one has a lot of different kinds of art. I picked a decade, and we're going to look at some of that. This is Lenny Bruce, the art of the dance of Jerome Robbins, and the art of Lichtenstein, and the photography of Diane Arbus. Before we start, I just want to let you know there is something shocking that we're going to talk about or experience. Not going to tell you what it is, whether it's nudity or language or anti-Semitism, but it's something that is either art or people have thought is art. So I'm going to ask you to bear with me when we get to it, and then we'll talk about it, okay? So we're looking at folk music, pop art, stand-up comedy, photography, and choreography. Really is all kinds of different Jewish culture, which is how I like to do it. So we're going to start with Bob Dylan. What I like to do in my sessions is very little history and mostly appreciating the art. So I'm not going to give you a full biography of any of these folks, but we're going to really focus on what it is that they created. And in the case of Bob Dylan, there are many Bob Dylans. Even in the 60s, there are many Bob Dylans. So we're just going to look at the very itty-bitty beginning of his career and some of the music that he put together. I'm now going to show you, in a minute, I'm going to show you clips from several of his early songs. Then we're going to spend a little bit more time on one of his songs. Basically, the way I've set up the session is we do a tour of the work of each artist, and then we pause and we talk a little bit about one of the works of art in particular. And we're going to listen to these songs, and we're going to spend some time on the timetable changes.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? The answer, my friend, is a blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. I'm walking down that long, lonesome road, babe. Where I'm bound, I can't tell. You just kind of wasted my precious time, but don't think twice, it's alright. As they rode him in custody down to the station, take the rag away from your face. Now ain't the time for your tears. Then I stand on the ocean until I start sinking, and it's hard rains are gonna fall. I'm ready to go anywhere. I'm ready for to fade into my own parade. Cast your dancing spell my way. I promise to go under it. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I come following you.
We're going to come back to it, so while we're doing it, I want you to listen to each stanza and ask yourself, who's he talking to, and what point is he making?
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. writers and critics who prophesize with your pen. And keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin. And there's no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will be later to win. For the times they are changing. Senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. For the battle outside raging will soon shake your windows and rattle your walls. For the times they are a-changing. Our mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend your hand. For the times they are a-changing. The line it is drawn and the curse it is cast. The slowest one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last. For the times they are changing.
First of all, raise your hand if you've ever never seen him sing when he was young, or if you haven't seen him sing young in a long time. Right? What's your reaction to seeing him like this?
Very serious.
Very serious, right? It's except maybe when he was singing Tambourine Man, right? But the other ones, yeah. I'm talking more about the experience of just watching him sing, right? Not even what he's saying. What's it like to watch him sing? Yeah.
Well, he looks like he's 12.
He's so young. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
He is so young.
It's just simple, a guitar and a harmonica.
Yeah, yeah. And what's neat is when you look, he has learned so much about music and so much about poetry. By the time that this happens, there are allusions with the letter A, to all kinds, both musically and lyrically, to all kinds of other pieces of Western art and music and literature that he works into his stuff. That it's amazing to think he was in his early 20s when he did it, and that's part of why it lasted. And he lasted. I mean, it's just a remarkable career. The times they are changing, and we'll listen verse by verse, and I'll have you tell me who he's talking to. Okay, you better start swimming or you're sinking like a stone. Who's he probably talking to here?
Capitalists.
Capitalists? All right. Who's he talking to? Yes.
Middle America, maybe
Okay.
people who aren't on board.
All right.
What's happening in the 60s.
I think he's talking to them later in the song.
He's talking to his peers.
I think he's talking to young people. Come gather around people wherever you roam. And he's trying to inspire them with, you better start swimming. Let's go forward or we're going to sink like a stone, which may be what the last generation did. I mean, you're not wrong. And I think we're going to see that more as the song goes on. I think this first verse is peers. Let's see what happens next. Okay, so who's he talking to?
The journalist?
Journalist, media. And what is he saying?
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Is he hostile?
No.
Not really. He's friendly, he's open. This is at the beginning of the song, and he's saying, you prophesize with your pen. That's kind, right? He's saying, you're important, I care what you say. You should be on my team, and let's move forward and say important things together. Okay, who's he talking to? Politicians, elected officials. What's his tone?
Confrontational, revolt, threat.
Violent, right? We'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls. He is literally threatening them, right? And it sort of comes out of nowhere for me, listening to the song, that it's fairly gentle, and then you'll see the next verse also backs off a little bit. But here, in the middle of the song, he's very confrontational and demanding. Okay, now who's he talking to? Older generation. Tell me a little bit about how old is that older generation?
Over 30.
Over 30, right?
Parents.
Huh? Parents probably lived through
Great
Great Depression, World War II, right? So it's a very kind of American mindset. And he's saying to their parents, what's his tone? Is he talking to them like he spoke to the congressman?
No.
Like he spoke to the journalist? No, how's he talking to his parents? Yeah, you're welcome. But if you can't get on our team, get out of the way, right? Okay. Okay, so here, he is prophesizing. If you listen to those lyrics, that's what he's doing, is he's prophesizing. He's even quoting a famous Jewish philosopher who said, the first one now will later be last. Who said that? Anybody? Jesus. So, which is interesting, right? He's speaking in prophecy, but who does he turn to in that line? And of course, later he had a Christian period, but here I just think, in his thinking about the kind of revolution that he's envisioning, that's who he chose. That's who he chose to quote. What times are changing? Why did he write this? What times is he referring to?
The Vietnam War.
No. A lot of people think that this was written 2 years before Vietnam, before people started to be drafted or anything like that. During Vietnam, people sang this song, but he didn't write it. He didn't write it for that. What did he write it for?
Civil rights.
Civil rights. Civil rights. But also, he was expressing a generational anxiety, rebellion. It was basically saying, and he was one of the first ones, musically, to say, I'm going in a different direction. And yet he drew upon American folk traditions. You can draw a direct line from old American folk songs through Woody Guthrie. He really studied folk traditions and drew on them. What's the deal with changing? The times they are changing. No G. What is that?
Kind of like continuing, but changing.
Okay, maybe he's
continue on.
yeah, but it's a weird way to say it. What changing?
Kind of Southern and
Yes.
to Black Americans.
Yes, black. Yes, he has chosen American colloquialisms. That's not how they spoke at his synagogue in Duluth,
Yeah.
where he grew up, right? That's not the way in his Jewish community people talk. But he was trying to use that idiom from his study of American folk music and to really be conversational. And I think I happen to think that it works. All right, so next we're going to look at Roy Lichtenstein. And Lichtenstein is probably one of the two most famous American pop artists in the 60s. Here is Roy Lichtenstein, and here is Andy Warhol. And they knew each other well, and they both did sort of the same thing in that they used commercial imagery and they used commercial culture in order to create art and to look at the society that they lived in. And not everybody liked it. As a matter of fact, Life magazine, is he the worst artist in the United States? So he had the last laugh because he is considered one of the greatest artists in the United States of his era. So, you know, it's the kind of thing, it's like Dewey defeats Truman, right? Okay. Let's take a look at some of his paintings. This is one of his first use of comic book images. And this is actually taken right out of a Disney cartoon. Obviously what's going on is Donald Duck thinks he's caught a fish, but he's really only caught himself, and Mickey thinks it's hilarious. But look what's going on between his nose and his glove. You see he's blushing, or at least he's flushing, or something is pink there. But it's not pink. It's a lot of little red dots. They're called Ben-Day dots. And they were invented by this newspaper printer named Ben Day, who wanted to save money. Rather than spending money on pink ink, he took red ink and he did a lot of little dots, and you step back and it looks pink. Does that remind you of any other painter? George Seurat, right? Who had the same concept. And if you look up close at some of Lichtenstein's work, it's just a bunch of big circles, but he creates great art out of it. This is the first time that he did that, and he specifically used famous cartoon characters to make his point. This one is called Mickey. This is another famous, very early one. He got this right out of it. You can see it right out of a newspaper ad for a retreat, a vacation retreat. And you can see some interesting things going on here. She's supposed to be welcoming people and advertising this retreat segment, but she's so unrealistic, right? Look at her arms, right? There's no real elbow, or the elbows go in a strange direction. And her mouth is off kilter. What does her mouth remind you of? The ball she's holding. Right?
Oh.
Right? So, now you see it, right? So it's got echoes of, which means that her face and her expressions are evocative of the playful object that she's holding above her head. Now, if you're at a vacation retreat, who does this? Who stands with a ball in their hand? Is she catching it? Is she throwing it? Is she playing a game? Or is this just an image of what we might think of about commercial advertising of leisure in America? This is a classic Lichtenstein. He does a lot of damsel in distress or sort of comic book images. There was a popular genre of comic books which were like romance comics, and usually with women as the heroines. And in this case, she's saying, "Oh, Jeff, I love you too, but..." It's a classic Lichtenstein. And she's pretty beautiful, right? Why do you think she has blonde hair and blue eyes?
It's the image of beauty in the U.S.
That's true. And he paints in primary colors, right? So his palette was sort of limited. But yes, you're right. And he didn't have that many choices. Anyway, so oh, Jeff. Jeff is probably her boyfriend. I love you too, but I'm going to take 4 people's guesses as to how you would finish that sentence. Oh, Jeff, I love you too, but someone raise your hand.
I don't
Yes.
want to date you anymore.
I don't want to date you anymore. Yes.
You're already married.
You're already married. I love you too, but you have a wife. Yes, one more.
No, I'm married.
But I'm married? I don't buy that one. You think so?
Well, I mean.
Ah. But I have a husband. I think she's more. It's interesting. I have to think about that one. One more. Yes.
But not as much as not as much as you love me.
Oh. More likely, she's just stopping his butt. But it's fun for us to see this painting and to just imagine where she's going and why Lichtenstein is shutting her up at that moment. Why she's hanging right there, and how that relates to the face. So this is Wham. He also draws a lot of images out of war comics, which were quite popular in that era, and lots of wham, cow, those sorts of language as things get blown up, and you'll see people in the cockpit, and sometimes you don't see a person. You only see a plane and another plane exploding, but someone's saying, I pressed the fire control, and ahead of me rockets blaze through the sky. Wham! Right? Remember? Red, yellow, blue, Lichtenstein. But what might he be saying by painting comic strips about war?
War is a bad thing.
War is a bad thing? Why are comic strips bad?
Their culture has made them more recreational and it's marketed to little boys as a hobby.
And he's criticizing that?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
He's showing it to us.
He's picking comic books for children and showing, this is what the kids are looking at and having fun with. And maybe war itself is worthy of mockery or of lampooning and cartooning instead. And here, this one, comic book villain, right? A comic book villain, and he says, what? Why did you ask that? What do you know about my image duplicator? And you can see comic book villains with their evil machinery, etc., etc. There's an image duplicator that this painting is referring to. Anybody know what image duplicator? Yeah?
Warhol?
No?
Xerox machine?
No?
Camera?
No? Roy Lichtenstein! That's what he did, is he would take images and he would duplicate them. So now he creates a duplicated image. It's so meta, so self-referential. He's created a picture of this, like you can see his evil eyes, saying, what have you done with my image duplicator? Who's the guy who painted him? Here's my interpretation of this. I don't know if this is right. I don't know if anybody else has this one. But is it normal to paint a painting of flowers? Yes, historically in Western art, that's a popular subject. Is trash cans a popular subject? No. So Lichtenstein gives us trash cans with flowers on them.
And high heels.
And high heels, right? It is art about a trash can. But to me, the key thing, these are not decorations. He's saying, I am taking Western art and I'm just going in a different direction, where I'm taking a household object and I'm making it, it's not a bunch of fruit on a table. I'm making it into art. And we're going to look at 2 more. Why, Brad, darling, this painting is a masterpiece. Soon you'll have all of New York clamoring for your work. And as a matter of fact, this painting ended up selling for more than any of his other paintings at one point. So this is a masterpiece. What is her expression?
Story. Adoring.
You know, I kind of see, yeah, sultry. And what's his expression? Blasé. He looks a little sad to me, right? And why Brad Darling? He's got a lot. He uses a lot of words, names like Brad. And, my soon you'll have all of Jeff is another big one. All of New York clamoring for your work. Again, self-referential, right? He's thinking about himself and his paintings. And now we're going to look at Drowning Girl, which also has Brad. She says, I don't care. I'd rather sink than call Brad for help. Now, let's figure out what's going on here. I'm going to ask you to call out adjectives, and only adjectives, to describe her. She is blank.
Sad.
Sad.
Desperate.
Desperate. Angry.
Suicidal.
Suicidal. Good.
Stubborn.
Stubborn. Excellent. Very stubborn.
Drowning.
Drowning. Absolutely. It's called Drowning Girls. Name of the name. Okay. I don't care. I'd rather sink than call Brad for help. Why would she rather sink? Anybody? You can use more than an adjective. Why would she rather sink?
Brad's with that blonde.
Could be. By the way, why, she has blue hair.
Yeah.
Now, there are two reasons she has blue hair. First of all,
That's what
because it's primary color. But second of all, it makes it less realistic,
Yeah.
right? Because blue is not, for young people, blue is not a normal color. Today, right. So I don't care, I'd rather sink, meaning I'm willing to die, rather than call Brad. She was clearly hurt by him for some reason. Now, she's in the water, ocean, some kind of body of water. And does she look like she's struggling and kicking and, right? She kind of likes, she's on a pillow, right? She kind of looks like she's calm, and she doesn't look like she's really struggling. She's crying. Is it possible that she's crying mentally, the stuff that's about her? She is on a pillow, but her tears in her own mind are a ocean. They say something a little risky, which is that some commentators say that what's around her eyes is Brad's DNA, that he has treated her unkindly in bed, and this is her reaction to it.
Why is this so special? Lichtenstein so special?
Answers.
It hadn't been done yet.
Right, it was new.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Good, because he was taking low culture and trading it and painting it on canvases and sticking it in museums.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty wild. It's pretty bold. Yes, sir?
Was he making a social statement beyond being different?
He is rejecting the nature of the damsels in distress. Is he sympathizing with Drowning Girl or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody think not? Maybe not, yeah.
I think she looks like she's wallowing, like in her own
You know, it's a menace.
self-pity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means maybe he's not.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you could make an argument in either direction. Thank you for the question. Some Lenny Bruce. Oh, Lenny Bruce. So he was known as a sick comic because of his use of adult themes and language. He started up as a stand-up comic, but he also reached people through TV. He was on the Steve Allen Show a lot, and you'll see Steve Allen. And he also wrote for a fairly widely read magazine. Does anybody know what magazine he wrote for a lot?
Playboy.
Playboy. Good.
The most shocking comedian of our time, a young man who is skyrocketing to fame, Lenny Bruce. Here he is.
Will Elizabeth Taylor become bar mitzvahed?
Now, she had just converted to Judaism, and he had not cleared that line with the broadcast people. So people, as soon as he says that, they're getting very nervous. Live television, they don't know what he's going to say, and he's already gone off script.
No, I promise continuity. I'll behave myself. I'll do all the lines that we rehearsed, you know. That's the thing, you know. I have a a reputation for being sort of controversial and irreverent, and also this semantic bear trap of bad taste. And actually I do have, and I will always be accused of bad taste by the people who eat in restaurants to reserve service, you know, that kind of scene to anyone, yeah.
Okay, here's his famous bit on Jewish and Goyish. Dig, I'm Jewish. Count Basie's Jewish. Ray Charles is Jewish. Eddie Cantor is Goyish. B'nai B'rith is Goyish. Hadassah, Jewish. If you live in New York or any other big city, you're Jewish. It doesn't matter even if you're Catholic. If you live in New York, you're Jewish. If you live in Butte, Montana, you're going to be Goyish even if you're Jewish. Kool-Aid is Goyish. Evaporated milk is Goyish even if the Jews invented it. Chocolate is Jewish and fudge is Goyish. Fruit salad is Jewish. Lime jello is Goyish. Lime soda is very Goyish. All drinks, cakes are Goyish. Pumpernickel is Jewish and, as you know, white bread is very Goyish. Instant potatoes Goyish. Black cherry sodas very Jewish. Macaroons are very Jewish. By the way, I don't even get all the references, but you get the point.
It's factual.
Negroes are all Jews. Italians are all Jews. Irishmen who have rejected their religion are Jews. Mouths are very Jewish, and bosoms. Baton twirling is very Jewish. Underwear is definitely Goyish. Balls are Goyish. Titties are Jewish. Celebrate is a Goyish word. Observe is a Jewish word. Mr. and Mrs. Walsh are celebrating Christmas with Major Thomas Moreland, United States Air Force retired, while Mr. and Mrs. Bromberg observed Hanukkah with Goldhammer Schindler from Kayamisha. I have to tell you, I love that you laugh. I showed this at Limmud, Manchester, England. They didn't get it. They just sort of sat, and they didn't get the references, and even if they knew some of the names, it wasn't funny to them. So I like that it's funny to you. Why is it funny? Somebody tell me why it's funny. Yes?
Because it's everything Jewish.
It's everything Jewish, right? But it's not, right? Negroes are not Jewish, right? So why is it funny?
His observation.
You know why it's funny.
Right, it's hard to say why. Yes, and that.
Well, it's kind of like Lichtenstein. It's American culture.
Right, so he's taken American culture and he's, but there is this traditional attitude that everything's either good for the Jews or bad for the Jews, right? And here he's going further, he's saying everything's either basically Jewish or basically not Jewish, and he's doing it in such a funny way. Last comment before we move on?
Well,
No, in the back, yes.
Yeah, so my thought on this is he's basically challenging the fact that we're always defining something as Jewish or not Jewish, and say, I'm just going to take some random things that are not, and let you evaluate that, because that seemed to be a shtick most of the time.
But I don't think it's random.
But they're all the good things.
Yeah, why is lime jello Goyish?
I know,
I can't explain it. And I love how he says evaporated milk is Goyish even if Jews invented it.
Isn't the word son of a bitch less obscene to you than motherfucker?
Okay, so he got in trouble for saying motherfucker, but the President of the United States had said son of a bitch. President Kennedy.
Really? Is it the fact that a Catholic president called all businessmen son of a bitches in a Jewish comic relates motherfucker? If you're interested in the meaning of obscenity, I'm less obscene than the president. If the word motherfucker stimulates you sexually, you're in a lot of trouble. Especially if it's my mother. By the way, are there any niggers here tonight? What did he say? Why, is he really getting out of his nut? Are there any niggers here tonight? Is he that desperate for shock value? I think I see one nigger couple back there. Between those two niggers to 3 kikes. Thank God for the kikes. And 2 spicks and 1 mick. They have 2 spicks, 1 mick, 3 kikes, and 1 spunky, funky, hunky. 6 dykes, 4 kikes, and 8 niggers. The point, if President Kennedy got on television every day and said, I would like to introduce all the niggers in my cabinet, and all the niggers called each other niggers, they oftentimes stood in front of the old days, and every day you heard nigger, 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 in the second month, nigger would mean as much as good night, oh God bless from your sneeze, or perhaps as much as I promise I'll hold to nothing but to do so help me God.
Okay, I warned you something was coming.
Yeah.
What was it like to hear that? You imagine you're in a comedy club and you hear it. What would your reaction have been? What would you think you would have...
The 60s are different than today.
Okay.
You couldn't, I mean, you couldn't do this.
That wasn't my question. That wasn't okay. Imagine you're at a comedy club.
Horrifying.
And it's in the mid-late, so you're shocked, right? It comes out, it's a word you're not supposed to say, right? Just because it was earlier, you couldn't say it then either. It was not in polite society. On a stage that you say it over and over and over. And you not only say it in the joke, you say it to the people in the room. Is anybody in this room counted under that category? And then later he gave a lot of other categories. And there were, when he would do this routine, there would be black waiters in the room and maybe black patrons. And he would say that. There was a hand. Yes?
I was uncomfortable. But as he went on, and he started talking about kites and mix and whatever, it diffused it.
Did it become funny?
It became funny.
It became funny. So he said, well, someday, when blacks start using it to each other, then, right, and thinking, well, today blacks do use it to each other. And it has not taken the stigma away from the word at all. Right? And he says it so many times, and I think his point is, well, we'll become desensitized. Yeah, it's only a powerful word because it's used so rarely. Right. And if we use it all the time, the stigma of it will go away. Is he right? No! He's not right. So this is comedy, and I saw some laughter, and you pointed, it does get funny at some point. It's comedy. He's trying to make a social statement about how dirty words, and that's what he was famous for, was for the misuse of dirty words, and he had trials for obscenity. And he's trying to say, hey, they're just words. They're just words. I'm going to pick the worst one in the English language, and I'm going to show you if we just said it all the time. And there are others that he did it with. He had a lot of fun with cocksucker because he was in a trial for using that word. And in the trial, the judge and the prosecutor had to say cocksucker, right? And so he was having the best time pointing out that, right? Because how can you convict him of saying it unless they use it? Yeah.
For this particular word, the constant repetition did not make it okay. No. But in general, he is right. Just more swear words. Okay. The more swear words that are used, they become... And violence, and nudity, and drug use. So why is NI, etc. an exception? Why is it an exception? Do you know? No. Anybody know why it would be an exception, or has a speculation? Yes, in the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's about power, right? Okay. It's a word that's associated with violence, and it's also not his word to reclaim. Yeah. And I think that's a big piece of it. Yeah. Right? He's a white guy reclaiming a word that's not his word. Right, and he is... So that's, I mean, for me, that's like why. And he's choosing to make language his sword that he's going to fall on. So he thinks it is his word because it's dirty. So he thinks because he's the dirty word guy, he can pick any of them and just shout them and say them and they'll go away. And he's wrong, in my opinion. He's just wrong. And I don't think people think it's funny until he starts to do the name of the kites and dikes. At that point, we're laughing a little bit at his style, right? But it's still, all right, tell me, what was it like for you sitting in this room at Limmud to hear that word in this session? So you want to tell me what that was like? Yeah.
Oh, very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
For us, yeah.
Do you wish I hadn't?
No, I think you were making a point.
Yeah.
Lenny Bruce, very valid point.
Okay. Is it humor? Raise your hand if it's humor. Is it art? Yeah. Maybe it's art. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not ready to declare. Some people think it's art, and I'm glad we're asking the question.
The only question I would ask is he doing stuff purely for comedy, or is he doing stuff for political change that he can... Clearly
for political change, or at least in his mind.
So I'd say from a comedic perspective, it might not resonate, but if he's looking at this as social activism and change,
and my God,
to see if that language...
You're in a comedy club, or you're in a Limmud session, and that happens, your ears prick up, you're paying attention, and he wanted people to think about dirty words. That was one of his main themes. Before I move on, yes?
No, it's me or
it's you.
Okay, when he got to calling kites and all those others, all of a sudden the message was, we do it to everybody. Yeah. So in other words, the nigger at the beginning really upsets us because we're picking on one and differentiating. But then it's a common trait of all Americans.
Well, you know, people say that about South Park, right? He's offensive to every religion, he's offensive to every group, and so therefore it's okay because they do. And I actually don't have a problem with that. But I have a problem with this word. I think that in America, in English, it's something different. Now again, I did this session at Limmud, Manchester, and they didn't like it. But there is no word in England that is the equivalent of this. There is one in South Africa, but there is no word in England. So in some ways, they don't understand the way we do of the power of that word. So, all right, so Diane Arbus, brilliant photographer. We only have a few of her images that I want to look at, but she did a lot of sort of street photography, and she liked to look for offbeat images, almost always people. And so she has some excellent photos of what we might call transgender people. At the time they might be called female impersonators or drag queens. Some images like that from the 60s. Here she does a lot of like young couples in the park. And here's a very famous image that she does. She likes twins and unusual people. There is a movie that uses this image, The Shining. I think Arbus is saying something about being identical but also being a little different because they are a little different. If you look at their faces, yeah, their expressions. How many arms are there?
3.
There kind of are 3. You can kind of see a 4th here, but there are only 3 sleeves. There are definitely only 3 sleeves. That's a little weird. Are they Siamese twins? Well, no. But they're presented in such a way that they seem joined at the shoulder. Yeah. This one, happy family? Is it a happy family? No. How does he feel?
Let me out of here.
Yeah, he's not happy? He's uncomfortable. How does he feel?
Get me away from my
a weird expression, right? Is it happy or sad or confused or angry?
Yes.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what's going on with this kid. How about the mom?
Very curious.
Miserable.
She's exhausted.
I don't think she's happy. She's exhausted. That's good. And then the baby looks cute, right? So to me, the most interesting face here is the father. I look at that face and I'm trying to figure out, is he burdened by having this family? What does he think of Arbus? You know, because that's, I imagine, who he's looking at. And she went out, she didn't like hire models.
No.
She went out into the New York streets and just started taking pictures. All right, let's look at this one. This one is called a Jewish giant at home. So it's a Jewish family. He has giantism, so that's a medical condition. And I mean, does anybody here know this couple? I know them. I don't know who they are, but I know who they are.
Everybody's
right?
Bubby and Zadie.
Bubby and Zadie, right? So they're there, and what is she thinking?
How am I going to dress this?
This came out of me.
She's looking at him. I can't tell what he's thinking about.
What's he thinking? He's a little more calm, right? He's just sort of come to accept it, and he comes to the ceiling. You know, it's probably tough to be him, and but this is home. Does he look like he's at home?
No.
It doesn't look like he's at home. This is the other one I wanted to talk about, and then we got to get on to Jerome Robbins. So here, first of all, there is a famous cartoon character literally based on this young man.
Dennis the Menace?
Bart Simpson.
Oh.
Yes, this is one of her most famous images, and my God, I love this. Okay, in his right hand he has a, and in his left hand he has a, or no, this is his left hand, in his right hand he has, on the right side of the screen, in his left hand he has a, he could have a grenade, it's just not there. Right? Looks like he's holding 2 grenades, but he's got this claw in his hand. He's very tensed up. Give me some things that you notice about this photo that you have to, on first glance, you might not notice. So take a look. What's coming to mind?
Is that something on his right leg, or is it her lighting?
Over
Yeah,
here.
No, he's white, below his knee.
Below his knee.
Oh, it's just the lighting.
I think that's the lighting, yeah.
It's very interesting.
But how about his socks?
Yeah, there's different socks, different colors.
He has mismatched socks. What about his suspenders?
Yeah.
One is missing.
One is up, one is down.
His
right?
knees are very knobby.
His knees are knobby, that's right.
He looks deranged.
He looks deranged, that's right. And you know, there are interviews with him afterwards. He's like, I don't even remember that day.
I thought he was posing for the picture.
Could be, yeah. Could be that he sees this photographer, but he's probably not used to being photographed in the park. So he's a little bit confused, or a little bit. I mean, this is the center of the photo. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what that is. Now we're going to look at Jerome Robbins, who is famous for as a choreographer. He is famous in part for choreography of men who have traditional male roles doing ballet and doing modern dance, but in a way that keeps them masculine. So here he is with some of his sailors. He is also famous for his choreography of Fiddler on the Roof. And there's a rule, yes, but this choreography is required. At least until recently, you cannot get the license for a production, a school production, a community theater production of Fiddler on the Roof without using Jerome Robbins' choreography. So it's a lasting, well beyond his directorship, it's a lasting contribution to American dance, because you can't, at least until recently, you can't get around it. You do his dances. Now remind me, at Fiddler on the Roof, some of the dances that you might remember.
The bottle dance.
Russian dance, the bottle dance is probably the one
at the beginning.
Huh?
Tradition.
Tradition, right? Good with the fathers and the sons moving around. What else? Yeah. Matchmaker, with the girls and their laundry and their broomsticks. So I just want to show you a little bit, if you haven't seen it, or to remind you what it looks like. I have a mishmash of several scenes. That's great stuff. But his masterpiece was West Side Story. And we're going to look at the prologue to West Side Story. I have a video that, if you want to see, a 5-minute video about the 4 Jews who created West Side Story. Leonard Bernstein, Stephen Sondheim, Arthur Lawrence, and Jerome Robbins. It's on my YouTube channel. But you're going to see just a little bit of what I have to say about this show, because we're going to look at the prologue. And in the prologue, it's 9 minutes with almost no dialogue. The whole setting, the conflict, the characters, the themes, all of this is set up all through music and dance. No book, no lyrics, music and dance. So we'll watch the first part of that. But before that, I don't know, who's seen West Side Story either in, okay. Da-da, what is that? What is that?
The fight scene.
Yeah, but it's the
Wow.
Whoa!
Never seen this.
I see a couple of jaws. Yeah. So, Robbins told that the thugs doing the dance to snap like this instead of like this, because he wanted a certain kind of tension, and he wanted the snapping to be harder for them to do. So at this point, you're just starting to get a sense of who they are and what role Rick plays in the gang, how they relate to each other. So right at this point, you see they're in a little bit in the mood to dance. You can see a little bit of dance, and then one more, and they just have to, and you can hear the Bernstein score, and it's coming. So we're learning about the conflict, and it's all the music and the motion. There's no words. The spray in their step. They just can't, you know. So you see jets written all over the place. So you're learning the setting. I love this. Right here, watch this. That's a ballet move. And this is a conversation. This is a conversation, but there's no words. You know exactly what's happening here. All right, so that's the last part we're going to do. That is the first lyric, Beat It. And they're actually, it's probably not true, but there are people who say there is a very big fan of West Side Story who used that line in one of his works of art. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is said to have taken Beat It from that line. Probably isn't true, but some people say that it is. So just wanted to say a couple of things before we finish. I thought this has been great. I really liked talking about art with you. I do have a YouTube channel, and you can see some of my my Limmud sessions and also videos that I've made, David Benkof, about the West Side Story video that I did, or my favorite 10 Jewish Broadway shows. And I have a lot on Philip Roth, and thank you.
Thank you.